This video is a continuation of my first video where we explored the early beginnings of Dangote and key factors that contributed to his success. That video is far from complete without this one, as it strikes a balance and puts everything into best perspective for you. A question you should ask when you study rich people is, why should I learn about a successful person? Why should I learn about a successful business? How does that information help me? If it only makes you more knowledgeable or merely entertains you, it is a waste, really. You have not gained anything of true value from it. What I'm trying to say is that there is something of great value you have ignored. You have sought to know how Dangote became wealthy. You're interested, that's good. But now, how do you apply his story to your life? What keys, what secrets, what lessons can you obtain from this story? But much more preciously, can these lessons obtain you wealth? What you are about to watch might just be what you have always needed.
But when you made your first million or 5 million, how we deal with...
While exploring how Dangote made his wealth, this video will particularly focus on practical and strategic keys Dangote used, and you can use these keys today, here and now, to make wealth. It is 1980. The top selling movie was Star Wars. Of course, that doesn't matter because Dangote was still on his business importing and selling to the locals. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Dangote diversified his operation to include trading flour, fish, milk, and iron. He was making money, and business was good as usual. But this was not exactly what he wanted. Why continue to play middleman when he could make the stuff in Nigeria instead and pocket even more profit while creating more jobs and strengthening the nation's economy? Dangote saw that it would be more beneficial if these commodities were being produced in Nigeria. Not just being produced in Nigeria, but he also envisioned the time when Nigeria would also export these products. So that urge for more was at it again. Only that this time around, as you would know already, it was a much more resounding success. Now listen, Dangote wanted to shift from trading to manufacturing where he had little experience. How was he going to do this? By consulting with the manufacturers in the country at that time? By looking up manufacturing on Google? There was no Google then. So how? Somewhere in the corner of the planet was Brazil. Since the mid-20th century, Brazil had been a major world supplier of automobiles, machinery, chemicals, food products, and other things. They were at a very admired industrial phase then. As you might have guessed, Dangote traveled to Brazil to study manufacturing in 1996. In 1999, Dangote officially shifted to manufacturing, building sugar refineries and a flour mill. Things were good up until 2003. At this time, Dangote was a billionaire like many other Nigerians. I mean a billionaire in naira. As of 2003, there was no Nigerian billionaire in dollars. Actually, there was no African billionaire in dollars. 2003 too was going to be a year Dangote would never forget. That was the year re-election was to take place for the office of the President of Nigeria. Olusegun Obasanjo, the city president, had been operating on the understanding that Atiku, as the PDP's money man, would refund his election campaign. But Atiku told him that all the money had been spent during Obasanjo's first turbulent term, notably on lobbying the National Assembly not to impeach him on 2 different occasions. Without access to the party's old fundraising machine, Obasanjo was left with no choice but to find his new donors. This presented Dangote with an opportunity he has maximized even to this very day. He jumped in on this opportunity and almost single-handedly financed President Olusegun Obasanjo's re-election bid in 2003, to which he gave over 200 million naira. He contributed 50 million naira to the National Mosque. Dangote also contributed 200 million to the Presidential Library. Now, I'm sure I'm sure you know what would follow next. Obasanjo won the election. Oh, but he worked overtime to ensure that any Dangote challenger who entered the market did so with a significant handicap. Dangote Cement prospered from restrictive licenses. The companies retained a vice-like grip on their industries today, controlling at least half of the cement and sugar markets and about 25% of flour. 4 years after, Dangote would become Nigeria's first billionaire, in dollars now. And so my friends, at this point, there are very powerful lessons we can get from this story. If you want wealth, aggressively sniff out and use opportunities. It seems trivial, but many people look down on this important fact. I'm not talking about politics now. I'm also not just talking about stocks, cryptocurrency, NFTs, forex, or Ponzi schemes, and any other form of investment that are forced on us every day. It cuts beyond that. And I know it might be hard to filter through to know what is real and what is fake, to know what is genuine and what is a plot. But then, don't be skeptical by default. If you want to be wealth, be on the watch for opportunities. Almost every success you know today is a product of opportunity. Did you know that there was once a time when the internet was just seen as a thing, a facade? Top organizations were skeptical about it. Many even predicted that it would collapse. A few companies, however, took the risk and led the way. You know them: Google, Microsoft, Facebook. Alibaba was just a product of opportunity. Jack Ma, a supposed failure, discovered that there was nothing relating to China on the internet. He got hooked immediately and decided to change that. Jeff Bezos moving a physical store online, Jumia following suit and doing the same for Africa. I could go on, but I think you get the point. Look around you. Think. Look for trends. Look for gaps. There are always opportunities. The entrepreneur always searches for change, responds to it, and exploits it as an opportunity. For Dangote, if he hadn't made good use of the opportunity to help Obasanjo, I doubt he would have been this wealthy. Every other move and success of this man found its place on this foundation. It was from this point that he became deeply involved in the inner circles of the Nigerian government, and now he holds so much influence over the industry. Another lesson we learn from Dangote is this: only invest in what you understand. This makes a mess of people's life over and over again, every time. Sure, you should jump at opportunities, but not blindly. Seek to understand first. But you see, we want to avoid this process because it is generally painful and tedious. So we just cut to the chase. Buying stocks of a business we do not understand, buying a digital currency because a friend told us it's trending, by venturing into a niche without taking time to understand what it would take to succeed in that niche. You see, when Dangote wanted to start a business, he still chose to trade because that was all he knew. That was his family's business. That was his life. And no doubt he succeeded because he understood the industry. When he wanted to shift from trading to manufacturing, it took 4 years to prepare. As the saying goes, success is where preparation and opportunity meet. Make sure your product or service satisfies a need. You might have heard of this already, but let me show you what it really means. At that time, Nigeria was importing a lot of essential commodities. With a booming population and a dilapidated infrastructure, this could not go on. It needed to start replacing imports with domestic production. Nigeria needed to reduce its foreign dependency through the local production of industrialized products. This would also provide high-wage jobs and commercial innovation. Dangote satisfied this need to an irrecoverable extent when he started manufacturing in Nigeria. Government projects, the building of infrastructure, creation of roads and bridges, all of these turned out to make use of Dangote's famous cement heavily. Cash flow. If your customers are not reliant on your service, you might as well stop calling it a need. It's a want, a desire, but not a need. Crush your competition. The 15th law in the 48 laws of power is crush your enemy totally. To be successful in any business, you should seek to crush your competition by any means necessary. Why this is what Dangote did, as we saw in the first video, I wouldn't advise anyone to take that approach directly. But first, you have to understand that the market is fierce in any industry or niche at all. The goal is to be the first. There is no room for second place, and if you're the first, sooner or later a rival might take your place. Facebook understood this. That is why they acquired Instagram. That is why they acquired WhatsApp. You see, that is the reason why you see companies acquiring smaller companies. That is the reason why you see partnerships. It's still the same if you sell clothes, if you're a freelancer, or if you're an agency, whatever business you run. You should never give room to your competitors. Never accommodate them. The moment you give room to complacency, you start failing. Typical examples: where are Nokia phones today? Where are the HTC phones today? What happened to St. Louis Sugar? I miss St. Louis Sugar. Alright, how do you crush your competitors? Here is how. Don't go after the competition. Don't look for ways to sabotage them. Don't worry about them at all. Instead, you should be worrying about your customers, and you should be giving your customers as much attention as possible and gathering much feedback from them as possible, because that is where your competitive advantage really comes from. Focus on your customers. What do they need? What do they like? Refine yourself to suit their needs. Offer the best customer service, and your competitors will serve you. Don't isolate yourself. In business and life, you can't be a success if you isolate yourself. Like the popular adage says, your network is your net worth. Networking is one of the most important skills of an entrepreneur. Isolation exposes you to more danger than it protects you from. It cuts you from valuable information. Dangote has a huge network. He has a huge connection. He is known in Nigeria for attending various social events and gatherings. He is a member of Nigeria's most exclusive clubs, where he frequently hobnobs with the who knows in the country, which enables him to subtly learn others' secrets, other people's strategies, his competitors' intentions, and even weaknesses. The earlier the better. Have you heard of analysis paralysis? Analysis paralysis describes a phase where overanalyzing or overthinking a situation can cause decision making to become paralyzed, meaning that no solution or course of action is decided upon within a natural time frame. A person may desire a perfect solution but may fear making a decision that could result in error while on the way to a better solution. This is what holds us back. A lot of us, we have an idea, a great one, but we never get to start working on it, probably because we think we are not ready, or the time is just not right, or we are busy, or we fear it may fail. Dangote finished from school when he was 21. Immediately, he started a mega business. You see, this is how the world works. Fortune favors the brave. So what do? Anything, something, so long as you don't just sit there. If you screw up, start over. Try something else. If you wait until you have satisfied all the uncertainties, it may be too late. You may delay, but time will not.
One day I went to a bank.
Yeah.
You know, at that time there were no restrictions of this, and I wrote a check and cash $10 million. And I took it home.
For yourself?
For myself, yes.
You cashed $10 million from the bank?
Yes.
Yes, and took it?
I put it in the boot of my vehicle.
Yeah.
And I went home and I opened it and I look at 10 million. I said, okay, fine. Now I believe I have money.